Why do we volunteer?
Volunteering encourages civic responsibility. I volunteer because I want to be present and let people have the option to reach out when they need to.
I volunteer because I love helping others and get such joy out of making an impact in somebody's day.
Volunteering enriches the community. It's an empowerment to one's life and an enrichment to make living even better.
Why does Cambridge have a commission for persons with disabilities?
So how many people have disabilities?
Is Cambridge making the city accessible for everyone?
Why does Cambridge have a commission for persons with disabilities?
The Cambridge Disabilities Commission exists to create a more accessible and welcoming place for people with all types of disabilities. We recognize that Cambridge residents often experience reduced opportunities because of their disabilities.
Welcome to Happiness in the City. This is Barbara, and today I'd like us to focus on a very important concept, and that is concept of magnitude. It's a concept referring to measure of things. When we have one small apple, we think that it's an appropriate size for this apple, and we would not use the term magnitude in reference to a small apple. But if we have a huge apple tree with thousands and thousands of apples, we know that the measure is different than the measure applied just to one apple. So if the tree were to have just 3 apples, then we would just consider it a regular tree. But if the tree is huge and grows huge number of apples, then we apply the concept of magnitude to it. So magnitude refers to size of things, quantity of things. Let's see what internet says about those things. We have the concept of magnitude, and let's look right at the beginning to magnitude in Wikipedia, and you see that this concept, see it here, okay, you see that this concept is very rich in definitions. So the concept of magnitude refers to many fields in sciences and arts. In mathematics, this concept has applications in Euclidean vector as a quantity defined by both its magnitude and its direction. So the concept of magnitude can also refer to the direction of an object or quality of magnitude. So we have the concept of magnitude in mathematics applied to the relative size of an object, etc. There are many other definitions and applications of that concept in mathematics. Then we see that this concept is also applied in astronomy. Absolute magnitude, apparent magnitude, instrumental magnitude, magnitude of eclipse, etc., etc. In seismology, you hear this often when people talk about the magnitude scale of an event like earthquake. People talk about the magnitude of an earthquake. This concept is also applied in arts media. And it is a very important concept for us to think about. And the reason is that today a lot of a sense of injustice is caused by lack of understanding of the concept of magnitude. So a situation in which one event happened is falsely applied to everything else that this situation is not part of, but the false reasoning is based that because there is one apple, therefore we have to have millions of apples. So this is a wrong thinking, an error of judgments that come from lack of understanding of the concept of magnitude. We have many situations in which one person made one mistake a long time ago, and that one mistake is applied to the magnitude of the person's entire life, and this one mistake is used as an occasion to destroy the magnitude of someone's life. So one little event causes the avalanche of destruction. So obviously we know here that any judgment, any form of condemnation that would use that is wrong by the fact that a wrong measure is applied to a given situation to either evaluate it or punish it. Let's look at the definitions from dictionaries. Magnitude dictionary. Okay. And I encourage you to start studying dictionaries. There are many amazing dictionaries on internet, and the reason we have to be precise in the way we use words is because words teach us the meaning and measure of content of things, and the nature of actions and laws of diverse kinds. So if we don't know words that would appropriately be applied to a given situation or person, we may not be able to have any sense of measure and justice in this situation. So let's see the first one that is here: magnitude, the great size or extent of something. They may feel discouraged at the magnitude of the task before them. So the magnitude can refer to a given action and task. And here the synonyms is immensity, vastness, hugeness, enormity. There are even more synonyms for the word. Size, extent, expanse, greatness, largeness, bigness, the magnitude of the task. So the magnitude in this definition clearly shows that it may be applied to intensity of a situation, to the territory, by describing territory as vast, to the size of a thing or territory by talking about hugeness, enormity, greatness, largeness. So when we talk about the concept of greatness, and as you heard, there's a lot of talk today about the meaning of greatness. What is great? Because we cannot just say that something should be great. We have to understand what are the standards for greatness that are desirable standards, because it is not a neutral concept, as you see here. And of course, the second part of definition in this entry is about size, and here we have the application for electorates of less than average magnitude. So this concept also can apply to politics. I will continue with this definition because it really is amazing how it expands our knowledge about the content of this word, magnitude. Another meaning that it refers to is of great importance, events of tragic magnitude, or events of very fortunate magnitude. And synonyms here would be importance, import, significance, weight, consequence, mark, notability, a note. So in the first definition we have magnitude contrasted to smallness. So magnitude is about huge size of things versus small size of things. And in the second aspect of the definition, we learn that it applies to weight, importance of an event, person, situation versus triviality. And I think that we really need to focus on those aspects of magnitude because they inform us to look into the magnitude and the opposite of magnitude, smallness, triviality, before we make decisions or judgments, approvals or disapprovals. Because if we think that a trivial event should be applied to destroy something magnificent and of great magnitude, then obviously this is a form of violent destruction. So we have to have that intelligent thinking about the meaning of this word before application of criticism or approval. Sometimes, as in this definition, event can be of tragic magnitude. So any praise of a tragic magnitude would be callous and unjust. And then events can have very prosperous magnitude. So then praise is just and criticism and condemnation would be unjust. So we have to learn sophistication in the way we evaluate things. I know that some of you think that the only way to deal with free speech is through the concept of love and the concept of hate. And that is a very difficult application. It refers to the mind's ability to love and hate. But before we can understand what it means for the mind to love or to hate, we have to understand the logos of the mind, the logic, the language of the mind, the ways of the mind. Because free speech really refers to the mind, to the language. If we deal with matters of heart or with matters of our souls, our bodies, they have different ways to create approval or disapproval. For instance, if you eat something delicious, your sense of taste approves of it instantly as something good. If something is disgusting, then your sense of taste tells you right away it's something that refers to a nature of taste, whereas in matters of the mind has to have comprehension, and then it applies emotion of love or hate to that comprehension. So for instance, if the mind looks at the concept of a tree, the mind understands the nature of the tree, the history, the ways of the tree, and then it can decide whether it loves the tree or hates the tree. But if the mind doesn't understand what the tree is, it doesn't make any sense for it to love it or hate it. It would be a very nonsensical, futile action. Whereas your body is different. If your body hits a tree, you instantly don't like that interaction. When your body comes in and gently hugs the tree, then you express it through that physical content and contact. So in order for us to understand how different free speech is from other ways of loving or hating, we have to understand logos, reason, the ways of the mind that God gave us that is capable of using language and in many cases, many languages. People know how to learn and speak diverse languages. There are people also who know how to speak languages of angels. It's biblical, and you know some people who speak in tongues that really means that they speak languages of the angels with translation provided by the Holy Spirit. So for the mind to be able to understand and choose what to love and what to hate, the mind first has to be affirmed as logos, as reason, as language. Then we also have another wonderful definition of application of the concept of magnitude to size in economic terms, in financial terms. And that is something that, again, is extremely important to understand. Like, for instance, in Facebook, there's one little problem, and then the false thinking, false application of measure extends it to all activities of Facebook. So it's misunderstanding of the right measure to be applied to the magnitude of all the other measures of this particular organization. We have a situation with Google Plus now that Google wants to shut down because of some security issues. So in order to deal with this security issue as a problem that can be solved, it decided to destroy the entire Google Plus platform, the magnitude of which is huge because it reaches millions of people, hundreds of thousands of active users. So that false thinking and fear caused by people who force fear onto Google created this wrong response. So what I'm talking about has economic significance. We had another situation with Tesla. There was one tweet written by the chief executive officer of Tesla, and it was really humorous. When I read it, I knew it was a joke, but some people didn't understand the illusionary force around this statement, and then ended up punishing Elon Musk with ban to be the chairman of the board. I think altogether $40 million. So the one little tiny thing was applied to the situation in a magnitude that is very destructive. A lot of what is happening in international economics today is like that. And it lets me think that people who make decisions based on small numbers and then apply it to the magnitude of diverse measures that do not apply to that small event or small numbers, that those people should not have that kind of authority. So I believe that one of the tests for qualifications of authority should be the ability of understanding the right measures, understanding the actions that would refer to diverse measures, so that a small event does not destroy the magnitude of vastness of a great corporation. So we have to really rethink what kind of qualifications, standards we have for those who make decisions and those who have authority over the measures of application of diverse punitive actions. Sometimes it is application of a praise that is applied inappropriately because the person really did something very small, and the praise rewards him or her with huge reward. So I think that this need to learn the right measure to inform standards of authority is very important. And in this particular definition, we have the third part of it, and that magnitude would refer to the degree of brightness of a star. So this is really awesome, because if we can understand that also the intensity of light requires the right measures, then we would understand that the mind that needs light to inform her thinking, that nature of light around us, in the stars, in the sun, in electricity, energy, it all is connected to the application of the concept of magnitude. So in closing, I would like to encourage you to come back to learning about measures and standards of things, actions, words. And that should be a much better focus than banning, than cutting off ideas, that destroying conversations, because we have to have understanding of the nature of thinking before we can deal with this. There's a vast attitude today that thinking is connected to health, and obviously there is a form of thinking that is healthy. In other words, it comes from healthy language, from healthy voice, from healthy interactions. But the matter of health has to be connected to the understanding of nature of language and nature of logos. I went through 5 years of education in linguistics, and we didn't have even one lecture on health of linguistics because it's considered a separate body of knowledge. And once you grasp it, once you know what language is, what logos is, reason, logic, what are the nature of applications of science of linguistics to other things, then you know what the basic standard of language is, and then you can make decisions what is healthy and what is not. But healthy in this particular sense would be inability to speak, for instance. That would not be healthy. Or ways in which some people have to suffer because they thought processes are unable to grasp normal language, and they need a lot of support to deal with this. But those would be ways in which the health is not in tune with the nature of human language. And I think that that would be a particular matter for physicians, whereas most people who have healthy language need to develop knowledge about language and logos to develop good conversations. Thank you so much for listening to this edition of Happiness in the City.